Greetings and welcome to Yarnspirations. I'm Mary Beth Temple here from Hooked for Life, and in this video we're going to take a closer look at the Marguerite stitch in crochet. Now, sometimes you might see it called the daisy stitch or the star cluster stitch, but we're going to go ahead and learn it. It's a really cool stitch to have in your bag of tricks, and the only even vaguely tricky part is knowing where to put the hook, which I'm going to show you. Now, if you'd like to follow along with the pattern, I'm using the instructions from the Crochet Marguerite Stitch hat, which you can get by clicking on the link below. While you're down there, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for fresh content weekly on knitting, crocheting, and other yarny stuff. And follow us on the various social media platforms using hashtag Yarnspirations if you want us to see what you're working on. So again, this is a tutorial on how to make the stitch. I'm using some heat wave yarn and a size I9 or 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, and I will be working in the round. So let's just take a little closer look at the stitch. All right, we have two different Marguerite or star clusters that we're going to look at. One happens at the beginning of a round. And so for the beginning star cluster, we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're going to pick up a loop in the second chain from hook, yarn over, draw up a loop. In the third chain from hook, yarn over and draw up a loop. In the same stitch as the round join was, yarn over and draw up a loop, and then in each of the next 2 single crochet. So that's 1, and those last 2, you want to draw them up in height a little bit so they're all about the same height as your other guys. So now I will have 6 loops on my hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to yarn over and draw through all 6 loops, and you can see that I'm pointing the hook part of my hook down a little bit, and I'm doing that so they don't catch on all those 6 loops. Then chain 1. Okay, moving forward, we're going to keep going with our star clusters. The instructions say draw up a loop in each of the following spaces: top of previous star cluster, under 2 vertical strands of last stitch of previous star cluster, in same space as last loop drawn up of previous star cluster, and each of next 2 single crochets. So what that means in English is, I like to go in the eye of the stitch where all those loops are. It's just super easy to see and makes the stitch really nice and neat. So that's 1. And then under the 2 verticals, you see how when I pull the stitch like this, you can see 2 legs? It almost looks like the top of a stitch. It's not, but that's what it looks like. So under those 2, yarn over and draw up a loop. Now I have 3. Then I'm going into the same stitch where the last loop was drawn up in the previous stitch. Now I've got 4. And in each of the next 2 single crochets. Now when I do that, I want to pull their height up a little more than I normally would. Not super loosey-goosey, but a little bit more than I normally would, so that I have this nice straight line going on here on the hook. I don't want the hook angled down because that's going to make the stitch really tight. Then yarn over. Once again, turn the point of your hook down just a little bit. Draw through all 6 on hook. And following the instructions, chain 1. Let's look at that one more time. In the eye, under the 2 vertical bars, in the same stitch as the last yarn over of the last star cluster, and in each of the next 2 single crochets, drawing them up a little bit more than you normally would to make sure that they're all even all the way across. Yarn over, pull through all 6, chain 1. One more time, just so you get the hang of it. In the eye of the stitch, under those 2 verticals, the last 2 standing, in the same single crochet as the end of the last stitch, and in each of the next 2, drawing them up a little extra tall, yarn over, pull through 6, chain 1. So this is what your Marguerite or star stitch is going to look like. I'm going to finish this round, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about joining the round and then putting in the single crochet round that is between the Marguerite stitches. All right, I'm at the space where I'm going to put my last one in. So once again, through the eye, under those 2 vertical bars, in the last stitch, in the next 2 singles. 1, 2, yarn over, pull through 6, chain 1. Now, as I mentioned, this video is just for you to learn the Marguerite stitch, but I'm following along with the written instructions for the Crochet Marguerite Stitch hat, which you can get for free by clicking on the link below in the description box. Now, they have us joining the round by making a slip stitch in the 2nd chain, which is right there, of that beginning chain 3. So there's my slip stitch, and that has closed up the round. Now for the next round, we're going to chain 1. And this is my single crochet round, and I want to make sure that I get enough stitches in here. But the first thing I'm going to do is single crochet in the first chain space, which is way back here. It is the chain space that is formed by the 3rd chain of that beginning chain 3. So I'm going to get a single crochet in there. And then in the top of the stitch, which is the leg right there, both of those legs, and then in the chain space, which is essentially the eye. Top of the stitch, chain space. Top of the stitch, chain space. Top of the stitch, chain space, and you're going to do that all the way around, and then join that round with a slip stitch into the first single crochet. Then moving forward, you're going to alternate those 2 rounds. You're going to chain 3, you're going to make your beginning star cluster, and then you're going to make all your subsequent star clusters the same. Join that round in the 2nd of the beginning 3 chains, and then do your single crochet round the way I just showed you. So that's all there is to the Crochet Marguerite Stitch. Thank you so much for joining me here on Yarnspirations. I'm Mary Beth Temple from Hooked for Life. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel for fresh content weekly on knitting, crocheting, and other yarny stuff. Feel free to use the links in the description box below to follow us on the various social media platforms. And if you want us to see your Marguerite Stitch project, please use hashtag Yarnspirations so we can see what you're up to. Have you tried this stitch before? Isn't it a lot of fun? Please let us know what you think. Thanks so much for joining me. Bye-bye.